The war between Iran, Israel, and the United States has now entered a dangerous new phase. In my last video, we covered what happened during the first 2 days of the conflict, but now the situation has escalated dramatically. The war has now reached day 6, and the scale of attacks is growing rapidly. Missiles, drones, stealth bombers, naval fleets, and even proxy forces are now involved. What started as a limited conflict is quickly turning into a regional war. So here are the major events that happen next, step by step. Update 1. Iran's navy hit hard on March 2nd. The United States and Israel launched a new wave of coordinated airstrikes against Iran. Soon after, US President Donald Trump held a press conference and claimed that Iran's Air Force and Navy had been severely damaged. One of the major attacks came from the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln, operating in the Arabian Sea. From this carrier, the US launched multiple Tomahawk cruise missiles targeting Iran's major naval bases at Bandar Abbas and Bushehr. According to reports, 17 Iranian warships were destroyed, significantly weakening Iran's naval power. Meanwhile, an Iranian warship that had recently completed exercises near Visakhapatnam was also targeted. A US submarine reportedly fired a torpedo, damaging the ship near Sri Lanka. The ship eventually sank, with 180 crew members on board. Sri Lankan authorities rescued 40 injured sailors, while over 100 remain missing. Update 2. Iran's new supreme leader. While the US was targeting Iran's naval forces, Israel launched precision strikes inside Iran. Several IRGC command centers near Tehran were hit. Israel also targeted a building connected to Iran's Assembly of Experts, the group responsible for choosing the country's supreme leader. The reason was simple. After the reported death of Ali Khamenei, clerics were preparing to choose Iran's next leader. Israel's strike was intended to disrupt that leadership transition. However, no officials were inside the building during the attack. Nearby religious structures were damaged, and 15 civilians were injured. Soon after, Iran's clerical council held an emergency meeting and selected Mojtaba Khamenei, the son of Ali Khamenei, as the new supreme leader. He is 54 years old. Within hours of taking power, Mojtaba issued a strong warning, promising severe retaliation against both Israel and the United States. Update 3. Iran targets US radar systems. Iran's first move under the new leadership was strategic. Instead of targeting cities, Iran focused on America's early warning systems. The first target was a massive US radar system in Qatar, known as ANFPS-132. This radar can detect incoming missiles from 5,000 kilometers away and is considered one of the most powerful early warning systems in the Middle East. The system cost roughly $1.1 billion, but Iran reportedly damaged it using a small drone attack. Satellite images later showed visible damage. In other words, a cheap drone worth a few $1,000s damaged a radar worth over $1 billion. Iran then targeted another system in the United Arab Emirates, the THAAD missile defense system located near Al Dhafra Air Base. Missile strikes reportedly disabled parts of that defense system. With these systems damaged, US early warning capabilities in the region were weakened. Update 4 to economic warfare. Iran also began targeting energy infrastructure across the Gulf region. In Saudi Arabia, a Shahed drone struck the massive Ras Tanura oil processing facility, one of the largest in the world. The attack triggered large fires and forced the shutdown of operations that normally process over 550,000 barrels of oil per day. Huge columns of smoke were visible for miles. Another Iranian drone strike hit Doha West Power Station in Kuwait, causing explosions and power outages. But one of the most surprising attacks happened near Oman. Iran reportedly used a small drone boat worth about $50,000 to destroy an oil tanker valued at nearly $100 million. The tanker broke apart, spilling 200,000 barrels of oil into the sea. This attack shocked the global shipping industry. Nearly 60% of the world's oil passes through this region, especially the Strait of Hormuz. With tensions rising, shipping companies began rerouting vessels, and freight costs skyrocketed. A container shipment that once cost $200 now costs nearly $2,000. Update 5. Embassies and military bases under fire. Iranian missiles and drones also targeted US diplomatic and military facilities. The US embassy in Riyadh was hit by drone strikes that damaged satellite equipment and parts of the outer walls. Fortunately, staff had already been evacuated. Iran also launched attacks on 6 US military locations across the Middle East. Targets included the US 5th Fleet headquarters in Bahrain, 3 military sites in Kuwait, the Erbil consulate area in Iraq, the Al Dhafra Air Base in the UAE fuel depots were destroyed in several locations. According to US Central Command, at least 6 American soldiers were killed. Update 6. The fog of war as missiles and drones filled the skies. Confusion began to spread across the battlefield. Military analysts call this the fog of war. On March 2nd, a Kuwaiti fighter pilot mistakenly believed he had spotted enemy aircraft. He fired 3 missiles, but the targets were actually friendly aircraft. 3 F-15 fighter jets were destroyed. Each jet costs roughly $31 million. Meanwhile, Iran also shot down a US MQ-9 Reaper drone and released footage of the strike. One dramatic image from the battlefield quickly went viral. A US pilot who ejected from his aircraft was found carrying a blood chit. These survival cards contain messages asking civilians for help. The message read, "I am an American. I do not speak your language. I need food, shelter, and assistance. I will not harm you. If you help me, my government will reward you." Update 7. The conflict spreads to Pakistan. The conflict also triggered unrest in Pakistan. After news spread about the death of Iran's supreme leader, Shia groups staged protests. In Karachi, protesters attempted to storm the US consulate. US Marines opened fire to stop the crowd. At least 9 civilians were killed, sparking outrage across the country. Pakistan later blocked roads leading to the consulate using large shipping containers to prevent further clashes. Update 8. America deploys stealth bombers on March 3rd. At 4 a.m., the United States deployed one of its most powerful weapons, the B-2 stealth bomber. These aircraft penetrated Iranian airspace and launched around 150 precision-guided bombs targeting IRGC headquarters in Isfahan and underground missile depots. Many of the bombs were bunker busters, designed to penetrate deep underground before exploding. The strikes reportedly destroyed 12 ballistic missile launcher facilities. At the same time, Israeli jets destroyed 2 Iranian patrol boats. Update 9. Iran strikes back at sea. Iran responded with a bold move. On March 3rd, Iran launched a Pave cruise missile targeting the US warship USS Gettysburg in the Indian Ocean. The missile struck the ship's engine room, killing 5 American sailors and injuring 12 others. The attack caused nearly $200 million in damage. This marked one of the first direct missile strikes on a US warship in the Indian Ocean. Update 10. The proxy war begins. The war is now spreading beyond Iran. In Lebanon, the militant group Hezbollah launched 200 rockets toward northern Israel. Israel responded with major airstrikes on Beirut, destroying Hezbollah tunnel networks and 40 rocket launchers. At least 25 Hezbollah fighters were killed. Current war losses. As of March 5th, the losses are staggering. Iran, around 1,800 deaths, including 600 civilians, nearly 50% of missile stockpiles depleted. About $20 billion in infrastructure damage. United States, 18 soldiers killed, multiple drones, jets, and radar systems destroyed, $100 million in embassy damage. Israel, 45 deaths, about $1 billion in economic losses, over $2 billion spent on missile defense. Conclusion: this conflict shows no sign of stopping. Global oil prices have already jumped from $60 to nearly $80 per barrel, and some analysts warn prices could reach $150 if the war continues. The United Nations and several countries are calling for an immediate ceasefire, but President Donald Trump has stated that the war will continue until total victory is achieved. Iran's new leadership has also vowed to continue fighting. So the big question now is, did the US underestimate Iran? And could this conflict turn into a much larger regional war? Let me know what you think in the comments below.